I love how Maeve reads my mind. It's all the right buttons. All right. Okay, I got the Hollywood squares up. Let's go ahead and do normal stand-up check-in. Luke, you are first in the squares.
All right. So I started working on the part of the form that I asked the question about with the name changes, and I started doing it kind of, I think, how like Caroline suggested,
Right.
but it seemed like the way she suggested it was like start from your current name and then go backwards, which I think could be a little confusing for programming, because it's like then you don't know exactly like which.
No, you can't just follow on and then the previous name was the one that you had before.
Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna start from like your first name and go on. But I was wondering what you meant by addendum in the. I should have followed up on that, Quentin. But
so an addendum is just anytime that your answers don't fit on the form as is, you can.
Yeah.
It's just like attaching another page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, that we
So-
call that an addendum.
Yeah, it's used in PDFs, and it's not necessary when you're using docx, because obviously the text will expand. So it's necessary in PDFs because the space that you have is set to a certain extent.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll keep working on that, and then maybe by Tuesday I'll have that part done, and I can show it off or just tell more about it.
Okay.
All right, my order has entirely changed in my boxes. But Luke, you're now like second to last, which is sort of funny. Anything else or questions you need, or any blockers you're having?
Let's see. Not too much else. I mean, I guess my other question is, and I can look on other forums to see like how much text in general should be on each like page, because like when we set it up with the wizard, we just put placeholder text everywhere.
Yep.
And then I don't really know how much text to add. And then my other question, which I actually just thought of, and I think is a little more important, when we did the wizard, we did there's one part which asked for an interpreter, but we just were like, oh, delete, we'll do that later. But it wasn't clear how we were going to add something later. Is there like a previous thing that's made for asking about an interpreter?
Interpretive flow.
Yeah.
There is a question specifically before the court forms. There's a basic question about an interpreter. So
Okay, so I'll just look for a different form that has that and implement it.
But it should come up if you had interpreter as a variable, something to that effect.
Yeah, I think they manually overrode that. Is that what it sounds like, Luke? You overrode the
Yeah, it
initial.
sounds like it. It sounds like I'll go in and I'll try to fix that.
If
it
your
is a
form
basic
sending to the court, then that wouldn't be popping up automatically. It's only because it was required for sending to the court. So
you just have to ask for the variable. That's all.
Okay.
So you can, or one of us can look in basic questions, or you can to find the interpreter and see what variable it is you should be asking for. That's all.
I can go find it. Because I want to go look in basic questions.
Yeah. Although this is not a form which they had asked for explicitly. So we probably don't need it, right?
This one?
You're saying
which form is?
there's room to put an interpreter.
It's a name change. Kate, do you just submit name change? Do you go to court for a hearing for a name change, or do you just ask for a name change?
I think it probably depends on if it gets contested, because people can contest it. I think you do need a hearing.
Oh, there you go. Then if you need a hearing, then you need an interpreter.
Yeah, the interpreter part is on
I wouldn't
the
assume
form.
you don't need a hearing, so
Okay,
I
if
would
it's on
err
the
on
form,
requesting.
then okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the conflict then. It's on the form versus the basic question one was one that was being added for every form that was sent to the court,
Right.
regardless of whether or not there was a thing on the form.
Is it on? Is it
Okay.
on the? Is it on the form, Luke?
It's on the form.
Oh
yeah.
well, then you should
then
have
do
it.
it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now we understand the conflict between this and the basic questions one.
So should I not use the basic question then?
Why
Should I
is-
just-
You should use the basic questions one.
Yeah.
You just need to ask for the variable name.
So just change
It's
your
the
variable
same. It's
in
the
the
same
form
as we
to
said.
be the one that will trigger basic questions.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. That being said, my new lineup has Michelle next.
Awesome. I have gotten very little done, but automating some stuff for the testing so that it can be implemented on a new repository is very little progress every day. So,
And we're going
But-
to do a talk later today.
and we are, that's another thing I've been preparing for this and for another project that when I do with Code for Boston. If people want to sign up for coming to the Code for America panels, there's interesting talks about different stuff different brigades are doing, some of them in, criminal justice work, and others in just other volunteering with civic tech work and running brigades and stuff like that. But you can also sign up and just come to our talk, I suppose.
Keep in mind, the times on the site are Pacific.
Pacific time?
So you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about two different talks. One you're doing with David and one's Code for America?
So it is it is all at a Code for America event called Brigade Congress, which is where brigades kind of hang out with each other and teach each other what they've been up to and stuff. And one of the big focus areas is justice and equity in access to justice. So they asked if this project would be interested in talking, and I said I'd be interested. So yes, but there's other stuff there that are brigade projects, but there's speakers from other places that are not just brigades, because there's a lot of knowledge out there that isn't contained in the brigades, so we want to bring that in.
And it's
Does that make sense?
right? Are people welcome
No,
to?
everybody, it's free to register, so
Sorry, there are two parts. There's an unconference and a conference. We're part of the conference.
we're
But
part
yes,
of the
afterwards.
conference. Yeah, the unconference will come later when people put up stuff they want to talk about and other people vote on it. But
I think I misspoke about something in the call we had earlier today. I said the unconference.
oh, okay, nope, we're conference. And there's another talk coming after us about, I've forgotten what, but it sounded interesting to me. Yeah.
You want to drop a link?
Sure. So 4 to 4:30 is us, and I'll drop a link to the.
I put one in the Slack.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, all right then.
Yeah, sorry, I'm adding a note to it. I don't know why I'm doing that while I'm doing a stand-up. Okay, yeah, I think that's approximately it for me. I've been just as organized the rest of the week. So I wanted to ask Caroline or anyone for a couple of examples in the 209A, in case people ask, that in ways in which we're keeping people safe, because my go-to was going to be the guided part about the affidavit, and then I was like, wait, we're not doing that. Like,
No, well,
we're trying to make it less guided, right? So I didn't know what to say about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that it's guided because it's not trying to be that prescriptive.
Well, we are trying to.
Oh, okay.
We're just not giving people exact example. Well, basically, I think one of the concerns was they didn't want people copying and pasting our examples into the affidavit. It was really important the affidavit is in survivor's own words. So we're still, what we're trying to do is, it's very hard to be confronted with this blank space and tell everything. So we're helping people, we're still doing it, is helping people structure their affidavit in a way that gives the judge a good picture of what happened and helps survivors understand what details are important to include. Because, they might need reminding of things that happened. As you're in crisis, as we know, sometimes it's easy to forget things. Sometimes you blank things out. Sometimes you think things aren't important. So we're just helping people flesh out their affidavit, not making suggestions, but giving a list of important things. So
Okay.
I think it's okay. I put in Slack for you. I should have probably put it in the 209A.
Okay.
Kate, you might have some other ideas, but also there are things like allowing people to do the form on their phone instead of having to do a PDF. Doing a
Well, it
motion
says
to
keep it-
impound is included in our package. It's not included in the court package. And that's important because Kate's probably a better person to explain this to you, but there's lots of reasons you might want to impound your form. So
Yeah.
we
Okay,
can-
that's perfect.
The escape
Thank
button
you.
also.
What did you say,
What?
Kate?
The escape,
The escape
button links
button.
to safe link.
Sure.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. I'm going to put that in just so we remember is right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Maybe I'll
All
take
right.
a screenshot or something. Yeah, okay. Cool.
Cool. Next up, I have Maeve.
We talked on Tuesday, right? Or Monday? No, Monday wasn't
Tuesday.
Digital People Day. Yeah, we talked on Plain Language Day. How could I forget, Caroline? So I had a call with Mia, Lenny, Aubrey, and Michelle about the appeals court forms. Really interesting. I'm gonna put the recording up today.
Did you say Lenny?
Lenny,
Oh, Eleni. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, gotcha.
yeah, she's back on the project.
Hmm.
We roped her back in. And so Mia and Aubrey basically walked us through kind of what they've done already and kind of helped Lenny get started and trying to figure out how to get, going on that. And then I want to kind of wrap up the civil action cover sheet today with Lance, and then that's ready to submit, and then we can start on if there's a form available for appeals court, or we can then just start working on our post MVP stuff for the civil action cover sheet. That's where I'm at.
Cool.
That's
I
great.
think I think adding some capacity to appeals will be probably where we go with that. That sounds great.
Another thing that we meant to talk about is meetings for appeals. I remember now. So availability is we're available to meet with the court. It seemed like 9:00 on Wednesday would work.
Yes, and actually, David had left the call. Does that work for you, David? Because everyone
I
else.
think so.
Okay, so we should just send a confirming email to the court that we'll move the meetings to 9:00.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't, because we have the eviction defense meetings at 10, but as long as it's before that.
Your life is just
So
a
much.
calendar of meetings.
It is. Wednesday used to be my blocked off time for deep work, but unfortunately meetings have seemed to have creeped in.
What would Cal Newport say, David?
Deep work happens after the kids go to bed. Okay.
Cool. That's
All right.
That's
Anything
selected.
else? Anything else from you, Nick?
No, that's it.
All right, Lily.
Hi. I just have a question about the server. I noticed this morning that one of my older packages that I thought I deleted came back on my playground. I thought, oh, maybe I remembered it wrong. Maybe I forgot to delete it. But when I looked at the version, it was actually an older version. When I deleted it, it was 5.1, and now it's version 4. So I'm wondering, how can that happen?
A weird thing happened right when we were meeting with the appeals court. I forgot to say it because we were in the middle of our meeting. I noticed that the production server was offline. As I logged in to check it, it was coming back up. So I don't know what would have caused it to restart. The Docker container restarted somehow. Not really sure why. Could be that we had some automated updates that happened to be just finishing up then. I can't remember if that's something we had turned on. I should find out.
It's less concern that it's just something I don't need. It came back. I can just delete it again. My concern is that would it, like an active package that I'm working on, would it be override or not?
So let me ask Lily, was it a file, you pushed something to GitHub, you deleted a file from your playground, but when you pushed it up to GitHub, the file came back in your playground?
It's not a file.
It's the whole package.
The whole package.
The
Okay.
whole package.
That I don't know. The file behavior is just a thing where DocAssemble doesn't delete files from the GitHub package ever. So that's the kind of but I don't know what would cause a package to get installed. That's more surprising.
Yeah, it's the virtual, it's the toolbox package. After I pushed it and after Michelle renamed it, so, okay, now I don't need this old one, I delete it. And now it came back, I said, huh? And then I look at the version, it's the old version. So
it's on the server for everybody or just for your playground?
I don't know. I don't have access to a server, so I don't know. But from my background, my playground, it's on my list.
Lily, are you on the Suffolk server or are you on MRI?
No, I'm on Mystical Health server.
Oh, right. Okay, so it could be, and you're talking about the development server? Yeah, you're talking about the development server, right?
Yeah.
So is that after you got the error about pushing? Remember you pushed a package?
That was Wednesday.
Not pushed a package. You did
noticed
something to the package, right? And you got an error. That was a GitHub error, right?
Okay. This Wednesday, I pushed my code to GitHub and then I installed it on this server. I tried to install it and I got
on our
message.
server, on the Mass Legal Help development server.
Right. It says it has error. There's an error and then there's no details. Then today, Friday, so 2 days later, I came back, I looked at your email, you said that there was a bug, Jonathan was fixing it. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to install again and it went through fine. So it was fine. And then I don't know this old package coming back issue, when it happened. I only noticed it this morning. It may have been there for a while. I just never paid attention, but this morning I paid attention and noticed that there was another old package also came back. So I feel there's something going on there.
The server was offline at one point, right? Yesterday, the DA dev.
DA dev was offline.
So I'm wondering if
I don't know that DA dev. I was working on the production server. I don't think. Oh, maybe it was Wednesday. It shouldn't have been yesterday. I didn't do anything with it yesterday. I don't think.
Sounds like maybe we're getting into.
I know nothing has to do with
flag
stuff.
for later, and we can troubleshoot offline.
Maybe maybe Quentin can help Lily and me on a separately outside of a Suffolk stand-up.
And I'm not saying that because if it was on our server as well. I think this is just but weedsy enough that it's another discussion.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Lily, did you have anything else aside from that issue that you wanted about?
That's it.
Cool. And Caroline, you are next up. And we noticed that the link, one of the links, was pointing to the wrong place.
I fixed that. Was Quentin?
Okay.
That's the one you sent me about this morning, right?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I fixed it. That it should go right, yeah.
And I didn't say, I have nothing to say. What do you have?
So, Kate reviewed our baby affidavit thing on Tuesday, and I just finished, I found, trying to copy it into the big one, I found a couple little bits and pieces, but I fixed all that. I've done all the issues specifically for the affidavit, and I just pushed it just before the stand-up meeting. But I think, Kate, I hate to ask you to do this, but I think you should go through the big interview to make sure we had a sort of up in the air idea about this patterns of abuse thing, just the language for it and how we want to talk about it. So I put that's in the branch, not in the little one, because I get to the point where I'm spending more time copying it over and I can make mistakes and stuff. So it's in the big interview. I'm actually linking to, I thought it was pretty legit for this patterns of abuse to go to the Mayo Clinic, where they just list, like there's 40 things. And I figure A, it's legitimate because it's the Mayo Clinic's description of domestic violence. And B, it has some superb examples of patterns of abuse, which answer Elizabeth Schoenweiner's concern and that Kate was talking about. So it doesn't have to be abusive, but the way it makes you feel contributes. So I thought that was I'd like to fix the Mass Legal Help page, but I thought just for expediency, let's just go to the Mayo Clinic, which I think is good. So I really think this is not as good as what we had. I mean, the patterns of abuse is definitely better. I think the questions in many ways are not as good as what we had, but they are good. Plus, they allow advocates to skip the questions. Kate, I forced advocates now. They still have to answer those, go through those, their radio buttons, but essentially check boxes the first time round. But for after, I mean, not the first time they end, and we could figure that out later, but I know you want to get this to the court. So I think this will satisfy them. So I just put as reviewers, you, David, Kate, and Quentin, because I think everybody needs to review it for a different reason. So it seems to me if we get that there, then we can push it, or whatever you want to do. You could give the courts that, but I don't know how you want to do it, but give that to the courts. And then there's more stuff we want to put into version 2, but it's not to satisfy the court, so we can keep working on that. However, I'm not quite sure how you want to do it, but that's that. And then that's for 209A. And then
and just before we leave that, that's up on the GitHub now in the master branch.
It's not pushed to master yet. It's
okay, but it's in the
branch that says court affidavit feedback or
okay.
something like that.
Okay.
It's
And
in
you
a
and
PR?
the 3 of you are listed as reviewers.
It's in a PR. Okay.
I was just trying to figure out where to find it.
Yeah, that's where to find it. And then okay, so that's for 209A. Then it is not never on my mind. I didn't like that. The language style guide. And Mariah and I just attended this 3-day international, it's called Access for All conference about plain language being a civil right. Of course, we know it's not a civil right. It should be a civil right. But that was just great. And you'll be thrilled to know, David, I think, that they're working with the ISO organization. That is an organization, right? They're working with ISO, which is the International Standards Organization, to develop standards for plain language and have it be language neutral. So, and that's just plain language. And then there's a woman, oh my God, I emailed her, can't remember, Esther Hedelberg or something, I don't know. And she's talking about low literacy standards. So kind of as a branch from that, they're talking about something else. Anyway, I'm thinking a lot of this we can incorporate into our style guide. And a lot of it is principles rather than specifics, because it gets to be so long, we can't ask people to read the whole flippin' guide, cover to cover. So if we can do principles and then expand it, and I think I can't remember, this woman's from Estonia or Denmark or something like that. So I have to translate each page, but it was a phenomenal conference. It was really great. So that's informing what my intentions are to work on the style guide.
Cool. Very cool.
Oh,
Awesome.
and here's another thought that just went through my head. So these are like the recognized plain language organizations in the world. And one of them gives Clearmark Awards. The UK gives something similar, but you can, and a lot of governments compete, a lot of the government agencies compete for this. And I think it's in North America, and they also do a Spanish one. But they were not complaining, but lamenting that there are very few submissions every year in the legal category. And I submitted Mass Legal Help years ago. I got some really good critique, but I haven't had the money to implement their changes. However, I think if we add some images to our interviews, we have a good chance of getting a clear mark. I mean, it's all about making us, more legitimate and more credible, but I think that would be a cool thing to do.
I think that would be cool too.
And at the same time, we'll be making it more clear, which is a plus.
Yeah, I think it's pretty, and the reason I'm suggesting is because I think we follow a lot of the rules already. So the one thing they'd like to see is images. And there was I'll save this other bit for this afternoon. And Maeve, you remind me about Rob, what's his name, in his comic contracts, right?
Rob DeRoy.
Rob DeRoy.
Represent.
What's this afternoon?
Isn't,
Casual
do we
Friday.
have Casual Friday this afternoon?
Oh, for Casual
Yeah.
Friday. Okay. I'm having a different afternoon later, so I was just,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I know.
Which we pushed back so that we could do Casual Friday.
We did.
Or did you?
Yeah.
I
We
love that
specifically
commitment.
requested slot time that was past Casual Friday.
Okay.
All right, Caroline, those are all excellent. I really like the idea. When are these submission deadlines? What's the next window?
It's probably in the spring, because they just decided their awards for this year yesterday or something.
Well, I think that's a good goal to shoot for. I think you're right. It would help, one, by implementing what we thought is best practices. That's just always great. But two, I think you're right. It could raise the visibility and provide credibility, which is always nice. I had something else I was going to say, but now, the principles. It sounds like that actually might dovetail nicely with some of the work Quentin and I were thinking around checklists, because we were trying to think of like checklist items for plain language. And so any distilled principles would be really useful for us, because we could then put them in the checklist form for our students.
Yeah, so I can, do you want me to, there are 4 principles. I'm
sorry, I was muted. I said, I love it.
So they just added a 4th one now, see if I can remember it, but basically is be able to find the information, be able to understand provide information that people actually need. So that gets rid of all that background stuff where lawyers like to explain to you why the name of the law is the history of it and everything. So provide information that your users need, make it easy to find, make it easy to understand, and make it easy to use. Those are the 4 principles.
Oh man, I forgot to write down the first time you told us on Wednesday.
Nice.
Can you tell us again?
Good thing we're recording.
Oh yeah, we're recording. It's fine. Okay.
All right. Next, Kate.
I'll look at that thing Caroline sent me. I've also been, my husband had to work on the long weekend, so that meant I decided I was gonna try to automate the divorce pretrial memo, because I was like, what's fun while he's working is maybe seeing what I can come up with here. And I showed Quentin some of what I came up with, and I think I made some good progress on it actually.
Oh,
I
cool.
think it's amazing what you have so far.
Amazing, Kate. That's
So,
good.
You're that.
It ended up being, because I was like, I don't think it's that simple for students. So I was like, I'm going to look at it and start thinking about it. And then I just really went down a rabbit hole. So
Sounds like a great.
we might have
rabbit
that at
hole.
some point.
Very exciting.
Nice.
That's really cool, Kate. Is that something that
Alright.
the financial statement would go into or not?
You are supposed to submit a financial statement along with a pretrial memo. I don't think I would not hold up one for the other. I think they both serve pretty separate. In a perfect world, a person submits them both, but I think having the person go through the pretrial memo, I really think in a divorce, one of the most important things about it is it makes the people think about all of the issues that they're going to have to present to the judge in the divorce. I mean, it's a really important piece of written advocacy that you can do for yourself. But more than that, I was people go into their divorce hearings and they don't know that they were supposed to, the court, if you have a retirement account, you must say what you are doing with that. So part of it is I just want to go through, do you have a retirement account, and make people think about the issues they're supposed to have thought about.
Nice.
Because judges get really irritable when even with pro se's, they're oh, you didn't account for the retirement account. And they're we didn't know we had
I
to.
did
I'm
not know
keeping
about
it.
this thing that you
How
should
did you
have
not
no
know?
reason to
Did
know
you not
about.
go to law
Right.
school? What
And they're
are you doing?
why did I have to write that down? I'm keeping it. And then so that was part of what my goal
Thanks,
is
Caroline.
to bring people through the issues so they think about them before the pretrial conference is a super important court date in divorces.
Okay, well, that's really cool that you're working on that. So how far would you say, where, I mean, you went down a rabbit hole, but.
I have the general structure, I think, mostly down, and then it's a document. It's not a set document, but it's a very standard document. Like it's not an official court form, but there is a very standard format for it.
Okay.
So I'm like, I think I have like the general structure of most of the things, and then I need to go back and do more in the doc X. I kind of like laid out what I want, but I haven't like done all of that.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's super cool though.
Quentin was helping me figure out, and then there's some like stupid things I don't know how to do, like coding wise.
Kate, call
What?
me up. Call me up. We'll do it.
No, I've just been ignoring them. If
So
I
I
ignore
think
them,
I think that's really the way to go, really.
they'll do
because-
they'll do themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
They'll
So-
that's
get
right.
taken care
I want to
of.
be
right?
aware of everybody's time.
Oh,
And then
sure.
Quentin
Notice
ended
that
up helping me
Caroline-
with some of them too.
Posted the 4 things both to the Zoom Slack and to the UX channel. Kate, are you anything else to call
No,
up there? And Michelle had a hand.
I did have a hand. I actually meant to ask if there were people available / willing to start talking to me about writing tests for their interviews or interviews they have made, so we can try figuring out if this is actually how viable this is for non-coders to write, or new coders perhaps to write tests in this system.
So that might be an interesting, I don't want it to slow down development, but we probably have some students that are at a stage. Quentin, what do you think maybe some of the appeals folks we're always sort of having to launch parallel, but it's sort of like what we did before. It doesn't, just because we're moving forward doesn't mean bottleneck stuff.
I'd be okay developing with students as well, because I'm developing it, right? So
Yeah.
there might be, I don't want it to be like, here's the thing that you can just use to write your, you know what I mean? It's in development. So.
Well, Quentin and I can put our heads together and we'll think about, you just want some people who are ready to start doing tests to see if they can, and is this for the automation?
The automated integrated tests, yes. So
Yeah,
I
automated
can
integrated tests.
see if the sentences I'm making make sense to people who are not coders, right? And how hard or easy is it to adopt this format for
It
testing?
might be something good for some of the fellows, some of maybe Tracy's stuff.
Okay.
I don't know. Quentin and I will think about it.
And those are really straightforward, those motions. So, I mean, as we get them tied together, they'll become way more complex. But right now, they're very simple.
Okay.
Could be possible. Yeah, what we're having people do is to write out scenarios, which I think we'll need to do no matter what. But if this is something like down the line, obviously, automated tests will be great as we're changing code that the interviews rely on. I want to be able to make sure there are no regressions. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll think about some source. We'll try to source you some non-coders to read your words. Then I have Michael, and then Quentin, and then Casual Friday.
Don't forget Mia.
I said Michael and then Quentin.
Mia.
And Mia, but I think Mia is just here for Casual Friday.
Here for fun.
She's not in the queue for the stand-up, unless you want to be. But she came in at such a time, I anticipated that she was just here for Casual Friday.
That was funny. It was almost like David thought that Quentin was saying me like Luigi. Mia, don't forget the Mia. So I looked over what Quentin posted about the scenario-based testing, and I wrote out a couple test scenarios for both of my interviews because they're almost at that stage. We're just waiting for final review from Matt on one of them, and I think the other one's good to go. So I wrote them out. I posted them in the Slack channel as well, so if people want to review them and give me notes, I'm ready to edit them whenever.
Cool. Very cool. Cool.
I'm just gonna follow up and say that they looked really cool and like good. They had like names for each one. It looked like really like they were like hardcore written scenarios for like each aspect of it. So I thought they were really good.
Wait,
like a professor writing a question for exam.
This is where fact pattern comes from, by the way, Michelle. I thought they were really great too. I think they look nice.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them.
fact pattern. I'm just like,
I
what
don't want to
does
derail
that
us.
mean?
Yeah, I guess it
Okay.
is
Casual
legal.
Friday, you know?
All
Draft
right.
list. Don't forget me.
Anything, Michael has muted, so I take that as he's done. Quentin?
So just finishing, like tomorrow's the end of the eviction moratorium. So it's like, there's all these things we got to finish up. But one, I'm just taking Mia's like excellent draft of the motion to stay eviction and integrating the sent to court stuff with the appeals court. I just finished that like yesterday. And then today I'm integrating it with the affidavit of indigency. So that'll be ready probably by the end of the day. And then we'll have a model to do the same stuff for the other forms that are in progress. And been asking the Housing Coalition folks, are there more forms that we want to have automated? I just got one like on Wednesday. So I did start a draft of it, just running it through the wizard and labeling it. And
Which one was that?
It's a COVID motion to dismiss, or a CDC motion to dismiss. So it's basically
So-
like the inverse of the declaration.
That's what I think that's what Mariah's working on. Just check with her and make sure it's the right one. It's the same thing. I may be getting them mixed up, but I think that might be a.
Well, I just took like a couple minutes to do it. So if she's already working on it, I won't.
Yeah, I would just check
maybe
with
I'll
her
send her my
because.
draft if she hasn't, and she can go forward with it.
Well, it could be I'm mixing them up because the non-essential, she was going to adapt the non-essential motion.
Oh,
to
okay.
dismiss.
Those are different. Yeah. So
Okay,
there's like
right.
there's this lagging window where there are all these people who filed notices to quit during the moratorium
Right.
that shouldn't have. So that's a motion to dismiss.
Oh, to
The one that
dismiss.
I was
That's.
working on is just for people who filed the CDC declaration.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So you mean
And-
landlords who are dismissing, so people who've given their landlords a CDC declaration.
Yeah.
And the landlord's continuing to evict.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I've heard is that there's just looking through the thread, there's some debate of whether the court is going to allow any of those motions, but it still highlights the issue for the judge.
The motions from the landlords or from the tenants?
From the tenant.
Oh.
Apparently, they're taking a position, which I think is reflected in a standing order or will be soon,
Non-payment only, right?
that it stays the execution but does not stop the eviction. But it'll be worth doing. So if someone wants to take ownership of it after, like doing the first automation is the easy lift. The harder part is staying on top of it and getting feedback and integrating it. So if anyone is looking for that kind of project, it's a short motion, just like a couple questions. But if someone wanted to take ownership,
And that would have to be, you would not have multiple signatures on that because each adult in the household has to file would have their own, respond to their own complaint and have their own CDC declaration. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
And eventually
All right,
integrated with MAID, probably.
So Gordon is doing, well, you guys know that people that I work with are doing a triage, help, if you have this housing issue, go here, if you have that housing. And I'm reviewing it for plain language. And I was just yesterday, I think, I saw mention of a couple of forms that as far as I know, don't exist. So I was thinking those might be, I think what they probably are is just tweaks of motions that may already exist. So when I finish, I think I'll check with Gordon, but we may have a list of more housing forms that we could put together. And I don't know how that works with students if they don't have the legal background to do it, but they might, I don't know, but it did occur to me if these forms don't exist and we're telling people, oh, go fill out one of these motions, and a law student's going to have a better idea about how to put a motion together than a person on the street.
Well, good thing is we have a fair number of housing attorneys at Suffolk too. So
Yeah.
That's a built-in pool for people who feel obligated to help students if we are overwhelming. Gordon and other, obviously Mariah or myself could help too. But
Yeah, Mariah, I think Mariah's full up at the minute.
I know. I'm kind of, that's why I wasn't monitoring myself either as much.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are full up right now, which is
Oh, I
why
think one of
it's
them's
so
like amend agreement. One of the, a motion to amend the agreement. That's one of them.
Okay, so that would be like a pretty short form too.
Yeah,
So.
all of these are short, but they're not easy for people on the street who don't even know what a motion is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
all right. Well, in the idea of everyone's plate is full, segueing to why that makes it so important that we take some time to rest and recharge.
I'm gonna have a
Maybe
couple.
we should go ahead and switch over to Casual Friday.